Nothing was ready for these kids. They didn't have lockers ready. They didn't have schedules ready. I believe lunch was served late that day. Everything was chaotic. Half the kids didn't know where to go. We don't have rosters. So yeah, anyone could have just walked into the school with the security guard lifting weights in the front. Anyone could have just walked into school because these kids didn't have student IDs. Can you imagine trying to tell a kid, go to class, and they're like, I don't even know where I'm supposed to be. Chad, I don't know where you're supposed to be either. So a lot of us were operating on, well, if you hear, you hear. You're just going to learn something of that. You're just going to learn something of that. These are kids from an inner city, from an urban neighborhood. A lot of us know what Newark is. A lot of these kids do have behavioral issues and undiagnosed mental health issues. What do you think happens when you stick a bunch of kids in a space with absolutely nothing to do, with no plan, and they're not stupid and can see it? This is the problem I have with a lot of people who teach in urban neighborhoods. They treat these kids like they're stupid. They treat these kids like they don't know any better, so they can do whatever the hell they want. These kids are way smarter than you give them credit for. Stop playing in their faces. I'm back. What up, everybody? I am the Mademoiselle, and this is my main channel. Please be sure to check out my other channels, linked down below in the description box, along with all the other things that you guys consistently ask me about. Welcome to part 2 of Surviving Newark Charter Schools. In the first video, we basically talked all about training and how we even got into this mess in the first place. So now we're gonna head into the first week of school and the second week of school and how 3 people ended up quitting. So let me just get a few things out of the way before we get into that timeline. By the end of this, there were 14 people who quit this job, me being the 14th. So before that, there had been 13 people that already quit. People were dropping like flies. There was one social worker for 500 students, no guidance counselors, no other psychologists or any type of mental health specialists or anything like that. The leadership went as follows. Director, he didn't have a co-director. The director is AKA the principal. So no, there was not a vice principal. Culture team, which comprised of 3 deans who are practically all new with the exception of one. I believe, I might be mistaken on that. Operations team, there was 4 of them. Let me not get ahead myself. There was 4 of them. And then, yeah, and then you have the nurse, and that's really just it. A lot of you guys have contacted me with job offers and, trying to console me like, oh, you could teach somewhere else. Oh my God, like when you're gonna be teaching again. I'm also a Zumba instructor. I perform and I also teach private dance classes. I'm going to keep that there. I don't want to step foot in another school ever again because that's how bad this experience was. If you guys thought the first video was bad, yeah, the first and second week, absolutely deplorable. So heading into week 1, us as fellows still had no laptops, no badges, and no key fobs. So yes, anyone could have just walked up in that building and said they were a teacher. Why would you say that, Ivana? Didn't they have security? 2 security guards for 500 students, okay? And on top of that, these security guards were insanely incompetent, just like the rest of the damn school. Only one of the security guards was armed, and literally as soon as you would walk up to the door and say anything, he wouldn't really even care. Sometimes he'd be lifting weights. Swear to God, there was one time I tried to capture a video, but it came out blurry, but I swear to God, the man sits in the security booth lifting weights. The other unarmed guard basically kind of floats around, but in the beginning, she wasn't doing that. She only started floating around when the fight started to tick up in the beginning of the school year. But both of them used to just be in the security booth. Now, a lot of you guys are probably thinking, oh, security booth, like a little thing. No. There's a whole little room, okay, where they would stay. There's like 4 different buildings for this school. So you walk in and there's a gate, and then that's the little security room. There's 2 garages, there's an annex, and then there's the main school building. These guards would stay primarily over there. How the fuck are they securing anything? How the fuck are they guarding anything? Pamodim. Don't ask me that. I don't run the school. But obviously, you can tell that safety was a huge concern at this school. And the first 2 weeks was definitely clear of that. The principal is the crossing guard. Let me say that again. The principal is the crossing guard. Maybe by now they probably hired somebody. But up until mid-October when I quit, the principal was the crossing guard. In terms of bag checks, culture team was mainly doing them. Sometimes other people would step in to do them. But as you can already think about, the bag checks were clearly not really the best. And we're going to keep and we're definitely going to get into that later. So let's get into this timeline. So, of course, a lot of us fellows were operating with no laptops. However, we did end up getting our emails. So they expected us to bring our own laptop to school, which was an issue for us because everything's supposed to be laid out. I know y'all got fucking laptops. And on top of that, why would I bring my personal device to work? Like, and for a lot of you guys that think, oh, well, y'all are nitpicking that. No, like my device is my device for me. I will say I do carry my iPad everywhere. So I didn't have an issue using my iPad, but I was never bringing my MacBook to that establishment. Give me my work laptop, Pt.2. He had to continuously ask for these things, including a key fob, including an ID, and they handed us a substitute badge. I actually still have it. I forgot to give it back, but substitute badge. Y'all, I was just looking at them like, do I fucking look like a substitute to you? Like, why would you even try to give me a substitute badge? Like, what is this? And then I finally got a key fob. Now, I will say, I was one of the very few people that actually get a key fob. And I didn't get a key fob till like a week later, okay, till maybe 2nd or 3rd week of school. But it was still like, it was crazy. The key fob thing was a serious problem because there was teachers that had been working there for over a year that didn't have a working key fob. That literally would have to sit there in front of the building until the building opened because they didn't have a key fob. Some way, somehow, I got a key fob. So it's just like their priorities are so out of whack. Keep in mind, this wasn't just us teachers. The kids didn't get laptops till maybe beginning of October, end of September. And they also didn't start taking ID photos until that week before and after that I was leaving. Huge security concern. So first day of school rolls around and I'm like, y'all, where's Farrah? Oh, she quit. How you quit before the first day of school? Oh, she's not the only one. There was like 2, maybe 3 people that quit during training. What did I just walk into? Throughout the 1st and 2nd week of school, we were seeing the CEO, which I don't mean to sound racist when I say this, and I hate when Black people say that Black people can't be racist. Yes, the fuck we can. And I'm okay with sounding racist if I say this. The CEO was a white man. I was calling the fellowship company the slave ship and the job the plantation. Does it not fit if the CEO is a white man? I said, oh, so we got a massa. Wow. Okay, that's yeah, okay. Maybe he's from the hood. Maybe he's an Eminem type. I don't know. This man was rude. He didn't say good morning to nobody. He didn't say hello to nobody. He didn't shake nobody's hand. That man was rude as hell. He only talked to the people that he knew. Which, okay, that's fine. I'm fine being a outside slave. I don't need to be a house slave, baby. Like, I don't need those types of privileges. Found out that the CEO of this school was a white man. I genuinely wanted to quit. And it's not specifically because he's white. It's specifically because of the disservice that they're doing to these kids. The fact that they keep saying that they don't have any money. And obviously there's money because y'all have so many vacancies and so much money coming in, because what you guys need to understand is at the end of the day, no matter how good or bad a charter school is, it runs as a business. And unfortunately for charter schools, you could really look up all their public information regarding test scores and how much money comes in. So I'm trying to sit here and understand, where the hell is the money going if this is how much you guys have made? Like, where did the money go? And I will say, it seems that they have networks in New York as well as Delaware. And it's like, of course you guys would. It really gives exploiting urban neighborhoods for a quick buck. It really gives embezzling money, or it really gives stealing money on the low while the kids suffer. I'm sorry. And that's my personal opinion. It's just like y'all never have any money. Nobody got the shit that they ordered. A lot of these kids don't have laptops yet. Like everything's in chaos. Y'all have all of these school vacancies, but y'all don't got money. Anytime somebody asks you for something, oh, we ain't got money. Like it's just, I just don't, something about it just did not sit right with me. And I really should have walked out there. Okay, I really should have. When I saw that Farrah quit the first day, when I saw that the CEO was a white man, I should have said goodbye. But I said, you know what? Let me meet the kids. Let me see what the vibe is. So first day of school, all the children arrive in the extremely hot annex. I'm talking about had to be like 85 plus degrees. It was so hot. Like it just didn't even make any sense. And basically we squeezed 500 kids in there because I mean, it's a rival. Obviously, they didn't think, okay, let's separate these kids or do a staggered arrival. They just thought, oh, everything should go well by having all these kids in the annex. So the way they did it was they separated everyone by grade and letter because they had all the students separated by cohort. Little did we know that these cohorts would be something that consistently became a problem. So, of course, we had a 9A, a 10C, 11D, whatever. Like, literally, there was like an A through D for every grade, with certain grades having an E cohort. And I have zero idea how these kids were separated. Later on, I think I started to get an idea of how these kids were separated. However, they had a lunch table for each of these kids to sit at. And if you guys are wondering, well, why didn't they use the gym? The annex is the gym. Well, why didn't they use the cafeteria? The gym is also the cafeteria. Well, why didn't they use the auditorium? There is no auditorium. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the annex is where everything takes place. It is the gym, the cafeteria, and the auditorium. Now, let me just say, I actually taught at a school where everything was like that. However, it was not as chaotic and disorganized, specifically because these people knew what the hell they were doing. In this case, it was horrendous because they would have to basically clean up as the kids were leaving to like lift the tables so the first period of gym could start. You would think it would make sense for them to just not add a first period gym class so that everything could be cleaned adequately, because upon arrival, the kids would eat their breakfast. So there's food, there's all of this stuff, and now you're basically trying to clean up. Not even a real clean. You're just basically lifting the tables and putting them to the side so then the next gym class could start. And gym requires a lot of movement. Sometimes you're on the floor. Don't know kids want to get on the floor after there was a banana peel on the floor that y'all barely cleaned up. Okay, y'all just picked it up and put it in the trash. Like y'all didn't even mop or nothing, you feel me? So that was like a very serious point of contention. As the kids started to come in, we realized that things were extremely chaotic because it is the first day and the kids do not have their schedules. Now, of course, the kids do not have their schedules because, like I said, because Mr. Bill was making them up into the very bitter end. Now, a lot of you guys are probably sitting here thinking to yourselves, how did he make 500 schedules on his own? Like how did that work out? It didn't. After basically a majority of the kids ended up in there, not only was it hot, but it was loud. And it wasn't loud because kids are loud. It was loud because no one had the proper schedule. I had kids just like, hey, excuse me, I don't have a math class. Hey, excuse me, I don't have a history class. Hey, excuse me, I don't have an English class. Excuse me, what is fill in elective? The kids had blanks in their schedules. The kids had blanks in their schedules. Let me say it for you again. The kids had blanks in their schedules. To top it off, a lot of them had imaginary classes. I told you guys in the last video, I came in as art, then became dance. So dance was in the schedule, but so was art, and so was music. And so was a bunch of other classes that were not offered. I feel like when he started the schedules, he was like, oh, we're going to get somebody to fill in these positions. Everything will be fine. There was no direction. Yes, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. There was no class numbers on these schedules. Some of these schedules looked so crazy to me. I just didn't think that they were real. Like, I was just sitting there like, how Why? Like, this doesn't really make any logical sense. Like, how, what are these kids supposed to do? So remember in the last video how I told you guys we had our stations to be at every morning, and I had a post on the stairs. So that didn't really work out, and it didn't really make sense because these kids were in the annex upwards to about 9 o'clock. Yeah. Yeah. The school day starts at 7:30. First period starts at 8 o'clock. These kids did not start moving into their first period until maybe 9:30. And at this point, I had freshmen with one senior class. So I had like 4 freshman class and 1 senior class. And my first class was freshman. Everything went really well. My 4th class was freshman, and it didn't go well. I ended up having my first period again during my 4th period. Now, you guys are probably sitting here thinking to yourself, how does that make any sense? It doesn't. What did I just tell y'all? A lot of these kids had imaginary classes. So I had a lot of my first period kids coming up to me, and they're like, is this music? And I'm like, we don't have music. And they're like, well, it's on my schedule. And I mean, this is the closest thing to music. And I'm just like, I just had you guys. Like, I don't, what? So I'm just like, you know what? Come on in. I'm not about to kick these kids out and have them in the hallway doing whatever. So at one point, hold that thought, I had about 60 to 70 kids in my class. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe it was just one little hiccup. Next period comes. This is, I believe, my senior class. And I see my second period coming in. At this point, I'm thoroughly perplexed. I'm like, yo, what are y'all doing here? Well, I have art on my schedule. And now all the kids are like, yeah, me too, me too, me too. At this point, it registers to my head like, wait, they really got these kids moving in cohorts to every class? Like, y'all got them moving together like they in goddamn middle school? Whoa! This is some shit. At this point, I'm just like, this can't, oh my God. This is not a high school experience. But I will say y'all could get away with it for freshmen because the freshmen don't know what to expect. They don't really understand what's going on here. So I tried to, okay, let's bring these kids in again. I have 60 kids in my class again. You guys are probably like, what the fuck did you do with them? Honestly, I played games. I played games with them. I entertained them for the 50 some odd minutes. Luckily in the middle of the class, like maybe 30 minutes later, a dean did come and he took them and escorted them to the garage and kept them for the period. But it just shows how bad shit was. I thought that this was a one-off thing. I thought like, oh, okay, like I'll probably never have to go through this again. Hopefully this doesn't happen tomorrow. Maybe it was just like an arts electives thing, because, we were supposed to have an art teacher. We were supposed to have a music teacher, but we didn't get one.
In addition to classrooms just being genuinely overcrowded because the schedule just wasn't a real schedule, there were people that actually did have the right kids in their class, but they didn't have enough chairs or tables. So you had kids just standing in class the whole day. You had kids sitting on the windowsills. You had kids sitting on tables because there wasn't enough chairs. Like, this was like chaos.
When I'm telling you, all the teachers looked disheveled. All the teachers looked upset. As I'm walking through the halls on my free periods, all I'm hearing is, oh my God, like, this is ridiculous. This is so stressful. Like, nah, they need to fix this shit. Like, nah, like, I'm not dealing with this. Like, this is ridiculous. So I'm not the only one that had like a bunch of like chaos going on. So we end up having a meeting. Now, I don't remember. So typically they would never keep us like at the end of the day. Typically at this point, our meetings would be in the morning. But for some reason, I do vividly remember being there at the end of the day. Like, I don't remember. I really don't remember when or how this meeting happened, but it definitely was the end of that day. And all the teachers and the staff was there, and everybody just looked over it. Now, the unfortunate part about this is I probably could have just looked in my email and saw, huddle or meeting, whatever, in my calendar. But a lot of times when we'd have meetings, especially this early in the school year, they wouldn't even tell us. It would just be like, I don't know. I don't get it. Like, I don't know where the hell these meetings would be coming about. Like, a lot of times we would have meetings and I would only know because someone else was heading to the meeting and they'd be like, oh yeah, we have a meeting. Like, that's how I would know. Like, a lot of times it wasn't sent to our Google Calendar or anything like that. And obviously a lot of us don't have access to anything. I had my email, but of course there was also a Slack channel. I got added to the Slack channel maybe like mid-September. So at this point, if the meeting was called in Slack, that's probably how everybody else knew about the meeting. With him, I don't know nothing. I don't know shit. You fool me? Everybody's face is just like this. And of course, Mr. Bill apologizes for the inconvenience and apologizes for the chaos. But the entire time, us as fellows, we're just sitting there like, this is really some shit. Like, y'all really threw us in some caca. Now, of course, to highlight these concerns, I'm going to have me and Michelle going back and forth with the leaders of this fellowship company. What am I talking about? The plantation, and how they dropped us off in some bullshit, because it was insanely problematic that they did this to us, right? At the end of the day, if you choose to get a job and you realize the job is toxic and you stay, that's on you. However, when you feed people false promises and tell them they're going to get things and try to allude to the fact and gaslight them by saying, oh, well, the school's in a rebirth and all, like, I don't understand what the fuck this was. Like, now that I sit down and I retell this story, it really is a slap in the face to the staff, the teachers, the fellows, the substitutes. But most importantly, it's a disservice to these kids. These kids do not deserve this nonsense. Nothing was ready for these kids. They didn't have lockers ready. They didn't have schedules ready. I believe lunch was served late that day. Everything was chaotic. Half the kids didn't know where to go. Can you imagine trying to tell a kid, go to class, and they're like, I don't even know where I'm supposed to be. Chad, I don't know where you're supposed to be either. These kids literally had no schedules. Like, jarring to me, absolutely jarring. So Mr. Bill does apologize for the chaos and all of that. And a lot of us are just like, yeah, I mean, I guess. So Mr. Bill goes, if you don't have your tea, you don't have your snacks, go get it. It gets worse. He's going to try to get everything together. You know, he did everything himself. All of this nonsense. And honestly, I will say nobody was trying to hear that shit. Like, everybody was kind of just staring there like, okay, like, nigga, go get these schedules done. Like, why are you fucking here? Like, what is there to say to us? Send that shit in an email, but whatever. So I go home and I get this email, and I believe this was also sent to the parents. Probably the only thing that was ever really sent to these parents, according to the parents that I've been speaking to ever since I started dropping my series, saying that the school is going to have half days for the rest of the week due to technical difficulties. There is no technical difficulties. The difficulty is the fact that you guys are grossly incompetent. Stop lying to these parents. There was no technical difficulty besides the fact that we didn't even have power school. Oh yeah, we're going to get into that. We didn't have power school at all. So that's a technical difficulty. We're not talking about technical difficulties right now. We're talking about the fact that you guys are so goddamn incompetent that you effed up all these kids' schedules to the point where you don't know who goes where and who's supposed to be taking what or anything like that. Because after that, I ended up speaking to Larry, and Larry's just like, this is too much. Like, I have kids that took Spanish 1 and 2, but they're in Spanish 2. I have kids that never took Spanish 1, but they're in Spanish 2. I have kids that just don't know Spanish at all, and I just don't understand because this is supposed to be Spanish 2. Like, he is so stressed out. And then I go to Michelle. Michelle's just like, yeah, this was pure chaos. Like, I don't even know who was in my class, who was supposed to be in my class. Like, where are the rosters? Chad, it didn't dawn on me that we didn't have rosters. It didn't dawn on me at all. And I was just like, we don't have rosters. So yeah, anyone could have just walked into the school with the security guard lifting weights in the front. Anyone could have just walked into school because these kids didn't have student IDs. They just gave them these little name tags, okay? Like, not even laminated, okay? It was like a paper that was stuck in a slip, like a plastic slip, and it was clipped onto their shirt. You know damn well these kids got rid of these tags within an hour. And then we don't have rosters to confirm who's in the class and who's not supposed to be in the class. We didn't have rosters up until maybe the second or third week of school, and we did not continuously get an updated roster. I specifically got a roster for all the kids in the school. Funny enough, I actually still have it. I have a roster with all the kids in the school, but none that were like, okay, here's your first period, here's your second period, here's your third, your fourth, whatever. I just got a random roster with all the kids in the school. How the fuck is that supposed to help me figure out who's supposed to be in this class? So a lot of us were operating on, well, if you hear, you're just going to learn something of that. You're just going to learn something of that at this point. So now we head into the second day. We go in and we have our little morning huddle situation. No. Again, so sorry for the inconvenience. We're really trying to fix everything. As you guys saw in the email that was sent out last night, we're going to be having half days. Of course, you guys are still expected to stay till 4. Hold that thought. They sat there and tried to sell the fellows on some, yeah, we have half days every Friday and it's really, really great. Every Friday was a half day for the kids. We had to stay there till 4 o'clock to do professional developments. Professional developments were mainly, if not every single one, was on classroom management because they always try to make it seem like the kids' behavior and all the issues at the school was our fault.
Y'all, every single PD was about classroom management with the exception of one, where there's an altercation with Michelle as well as Dean Kaka. And it's funny because eventually I started boycotting it because it was like, what am I going to this PD for? I started doing my classwork, doing my classroom like things, preparing for the kids, cleaning my floors because my kids were sitting on the floor. There was no tables or anything like that. So I took that time to get my life together because I never had time to do anything without taking it home. And I'm not like, I hate the whole idea of taking work home. I didn't have time to do shit, and it didn't help that we didn't have power school, so I couldn't put grades in. So I had to keep everything with me. Y'all, I'm getting stressed all over again.
All right, so that's a tidbit I have to add there. But anyhow, he's like, oh, yeah, we're going to be doing a half day schedule because, we're really trying to get everything together and don't prepare to teach or anything this week. We're just going to do orientation with the kids. Fun fact. That whole week we were doing training, they were doing orientation with the students and their parents. There was a freshman day, a sophomore day, a junior day, a senior day, where the kids came into the school with their parents to go over orientation, expectations of the school, all this extra stuff, meet the staff. Fellows were not required to go, so we went on home. However, the teachers that were hired there, of course, everybody else was expected to go. Why in the hell are you expecting us to do orientation again with these kids?
Yo, I don't know how while I was filming this, I forgot half of this, but apparently a parent cussed Mr. Bill out at orientation too. And I remember one day of training, we all came in and it was so awkward. And he had to address it like, oh, we never should let a parent take over the meeting like that. What happened was absolutely unacceptable. And later on, I found out because one of the parents that cussed Mr. Bill out was my students. Okay, it was my student's father that cussed him out, and he was basically going off like, oh, there ain't no security guard. You need to be worried about that and all this other stuff. So now you want us to do orientation with these kids who just did it with their parents, and one of their parents already done cussed you out. No, this is it. Come on now.
Why in the hell did you lie to these parents and say, due to technical difficulties, we're going to have a half day, when in actuality, you're incompetent and you didn't do the schedules right? And instead of honestly just shutting school down to fix it, you want to still bring them into school so it could count as a full day, so y'all could get y'all l'argent, okay, so y'all could secure the valise, so y'all could get y'all money or whatever the case may be. That's exactly what it's about. Why don't y'all just tell the fucking truth? Like, this is like, when I'm telling y'all, like, I was so confused. I'm like, if you guys have the ability to enact half days, you have the ability to just shut the school down and fix your shit. Like, when I'm telling you this shit was so bad, nothing happened on time on the first day. Nobody had anything together. And now you're telling me that you still want these kids to come to school while nothing is together to fluff them up with some orientation that they already did. These are kids from an inner city, from an urban neighborhood. A lot of us know what Newark is. A lot of these kids do have behavioral issues and undiagnosed mental health issues. What do you think happens when you stick a bunch of kids in a space with absolutely nothing to do, with no plan, and they're not stupid and can see it? This is the problem I have with a lot of people who teach in urban neighborhoods. They treat these kids like they're stupid. They treat these kids like they don't know any better, so they can do whatever the hell they want. These kids are way smarter than you give them credit for. Stop playing in their faces. So, of course, when Mr. Bill says this, a lot of us are looking like, so basically now, all of our lesson plans that we prepped during training week are now obsolete. We have to move them down. And we had AP teachers. So there was one AP teacher that was like, so like, I'm not supposed to be teaching anything. And he was like, no, you're not going to be teaching. We're going to give you guys all your slides and everything is going to be in your email. What I tell y'all, a lot of the fellows still don't got an email. A lot of them still don't got a laptop. I ended up getting my laptop, but a lot of us still ain't have a laptop. So you're saying you're going to send it to our email, and these niggas already don't want to talk to us. Like, how's this gonna work? So what they did was they matched all of us up with a teacher, right? There were some teachers that were by themselves, which honestly, I think it was messed up to put any teacher by themselves. Christine actually was by herself, which was crazy. It's like, she's a fellow. She just got here. She hasn't really taught in this type of environment before, and you leave her in a room by herself doing orientation with these kids. Like, I felt so bad for her because it just like, it didn't make any sense. And for her, it was especially bad because she went from like bio to English and history to now just history. She still doesn't have her lesson plans. She still doesn't have her curriculum. They still didn't give her as much as a textbook. And now you just stick her in a classroom by herself with a bunch of kids she ain't never met with some slideshows. When it came to the slideshows, they were laughable. There were a lot of grammatical errors in the slides. Some of them were way too long, while some of them were way too short. And of course, accompanying these slideshows came worksheets. Now, the crazy thing is with these like worksheets and whatever, they try to like gaslight these kids and lie to these kids and tell them like, oh, well, if you don't behave and if you don't do your worksheet, you're going to get a 0. If you are a student watching this from the school that I taught at, and you really thought that you were going to get a 0 from not doing that worksheet, there was no way for us to grade them. We did not have power school. There was no fucking 0. I guarantee it. I 1,000% swear by that. There was no way for any of us to give you a 0 anywhere. There was no way for us to give you a 0 before the last week of September because we didn't have power school. So it's just like, y'all literally want to just keep these kids busy, give them busy work while you guys do a bunch of bullshit behind the scenes when these kids should have just honestly been at home. Ain't nothing ready for these kids. So I ended up doing my orientation with, we're going to call this teacher, oh, child. Couldn't wait to get to this part. We're going to call this teacher we're just going to say Miss Letitia. I don't know. That was just the first thing that came to my mind. So we're going to call her Miss Letitia. Miss Letitia's super cool. Real nice. She already had a fair amount of experience there. I believe this might have been her 2nd or 3rd year. And, you know, me and her clicked right away. She was probably one of the only few teachers that actually spoke to me during training. And it's funny because Miss Letitia and Michelle, there's a little friction there. Like, there was times where, like, you know, she would kind of look at me like, you know how us, especially as Black people, kind of give each other that eye, like. So, like, anytime Michelle would say something, we would have Miss Letitia just sitting there like, get your friend. And I'm just like, you know, like, she gotta advocate because like she's saying things that ain't nobody finna say, you know, like Michelle was definitely one of those people where like a lot of people either love her or hate her because she's speaking the truth. And I appreciated that. Hence why I always backed her up, whether it was in person, in the group chat, whatever the case may be. I was never about to sit there and tell her to be quiet. Although I know for a fact there was a lot of times I was like, bro, the meeting's over. You're asking questions. Let's get the fuck out of here. It was never something that I either said or wore on my face because at the end of the day, everything she used to say was extremely valid. You know, like one of the questions that she had asked at one of our meetings was, will my scholars have laptops? They said yes. To this day, there's still kids in the school without a laptop. It's November. Okay. So it's just like, it's valid shit that you should know about because all of this is going to affect how you teach. So like I said, I get paired with Miss Letitia, everything's cool, whatever. And we end up having sophomores. Now these sophomores are rowdy, but they're not necessarily disrespectful, but they are a handful. And I ended up getting to know a lot of them during this period of orientation because literally all the days were the same. We were paired up with the same people with the exception of one day. However, I will say that this orientation week was when I realized that Dean Kaka was going to be a problem. Now, if you guys do not remember, I said Dean Kaka was super nice, super helpful, was probably the only dean you would ever see helping any and everyone. However, this first week of school just made me sit there and be like, what is this? We were also given strict instructions before the first day of school. This either had to be during the morning huddle or that Friday afternoon. Do not go back and forth with students. If anything happens, call a dean. Do not confiscate phones. Do not just don't do any of that. None of us are going to be going back and forth with the kids either. We're going to be calling parents. They really had this system in check. You know, if you have a problem, just call a dean. Call DEAN. Okay. So one of the days of orientation, this had to be, I think, Wednesday or Thursday. I was again with the sophomores and I was with Miss Letitia. Now, the annoying part with these slideshows, besides the fact that they were grammatically incorrect, some of them were just like real, I don't know, how do I explain it? They were just real boring and they didn't really even say much. And of course, we had the kids going back and forth with us like, oh my God, we already learned this last week. Oh my God, like, damn, we already did this. Like, you know, the typical pushback because, yeah, y'all did do this. But you know what? Just let me get through it and y'all could do what y'all want. Me and Miss Letitia took turns doing the slides one by one. But I also believe there was probably 2 parts. Like, it was long. All I know is these orientation sessions were long. We had about 4 sessions. They were probably over an hour and some change each. So it was kind of hard to keep these kids' attention. However, in one of the slides that I was presenting, there were a video, maybe 2. No, there was 1 video and the kids were supposed to do the worksheet corresponding to the video. Problem is the video didn't work. Yeah, it didn't work at all. So it was like, so how the hell do you expect me to show the video if it's not working? There wasn't a title or anything. It was kind of just there. So it was just like, it's not working. So, all right, you guys went through the slide. They even played, like, there was a little interactive game. They played the game. So I was like, you know what? Quiet enjoyment, whatever. Just, you know, sit down, make sure y'all stay in the seats, be chill, whatever. I've always had a real good rapport with kids. I never have an issue with letting kids use their phones or, you know, chill out, go talk to your friend. I don't give a shit. Just don't die. Like, that's all that really matters. Like, I feel like a lot of teachers be a little too anal, especially in this school. They really had a strict no phone policy. Like, it was really on some, oh, if they have their phone out, write them up. If they curse, write them up. If they go back and forth with you, write them up. Not realistic at all. I'm just telling you right now, not realistic. Even the damn valedictorian curses. Shit, I curse like a damn sailor. So I don't know what y'all talking about. Talk about some write these kids up for every little thing that they do. This is part of what they told us during training week. Now, the reasoning behind the phone situation was because they said a lot of fights would start off of their phones and then, you know, lead into the school. But it's like, there's no safety here. I think that it is imperative for the kids to be able to tell their parents that they're going to die because there's no security at the school. I said what I said. I meant what I said. And I'll say it again. I think it's absolutely ridiculous to take phones away from kids where there's no safety. I don't think it makes sense. You guys are upset that these kids have phones and you're literally suspending them left and right for phone usage and all of that. Meanwhile, the building ain't secure. There's kids bringing drugs in. There's fights every other day. There's a gun threat every week or so. So what the fuck are you talking about? I'm not about to write none of these kids up. Like, I'm not. So the kids are chilling or whatever, and Dean Kaka comes in the room. Now, let me just say that she had a habit of doing that. I don't even know why I said it like that, but she had a very common habit of just busting into classrooms, which not uncommon at any school. You're always going to see leadership or whatever just pull up to your room, do evaluations or anything like that. But my thing is, what is there for you to evaluate? This is not even a real school week. We're literally just giving these kids busy work. It is not that fucking serious. So she barges in and she's like, oh, what are these kids doing? And I respond and I'm like, oh, well, they did all the slides already. So essentially, you know, now they're just chilling out. Mind you, there was nothing really crazy going on. There were some kids that were doing the most like, oh my God, let me go outside, miss, da-da-da, let me go in the hallway. I need to go see my friend and the other. There was a lot of that. But again, what do you think happens when you throw a bunch of kids somewhere with nothing to do? They weren't like doing the most, like jumping on desks or like, yeah, there was some kids that just really wanted to go in the hallway. And there was a lot of kids in the hallway. Like, it was wild how many kids were in the hallway. So I guess that's why they started making their rounds. But like at that point, like that period was like literally almost over. That orientation session was almost over. So it was just like, what are you doing here? Anyhow, child. So she's like, oh, well, did they do their worksheet? And I said, well, the video couldn't play, so that's why they couldn't do the worksheet. But they did everything else. Oh, let me see your phone. She takes my phone and basically she looks like she taps on the thing to get the video. And then she goes on the smart board and she types in the title of the video. She was like, all right, y'all need to sit down and watch this video and do this worksheet. Just like that. I swear to God, that's how she said it. This is a dean. The kids are just like, bro, like, why? Like, oh my God. You know, just regular shit. She was like, yeah. Like, y'all gotta sit down. Y'all gotta sit down. So now we have this student. We're gonna name him Edward. Okay. So Edward's like, man, I don't feel like doing no worksheet. Come again? I don't feel like doing no worksheet. Oh, well, you gonna do this worksheet. Kid y'all not, exactly how I said it happened is how it happened. Me and Miss Letitia are just like, Just looking back and forth like, wait, what is going on here? He's like, no, I'm not doing this worksheet. Mind you, nobody wanted to do this worksheet. Keep that in mind. She's like, oh no, you're going to sit down and you're going to do this worksheet. He said, no, I'm not. Step outside. No, I'm not stepping outside. At this point, everybody's just looking like, you gotta messed up. Like, you gotta messed up. You're gonna do that worksheet or you gonna step outside. He gonna say, remember the conversation we had around tone? I don't like how you talk to me right now. No attitude, not cussing at her, not yelling just like that. Remember that conversation we had about tone? I don't like how you're talking to me right now. I said, baby, Edward is that type of kid. Like, he just be ending you in one sentence, low key. Like, so she's like, oh, nah, let's go. Get your things. You going home. Like, you going home. But see, I didn't even think about the fact that they probably would have sent him home for that. But yeah, I found out later that they did send him home for that. And interesting enough, you need to keep Edward in mind because I realized that for whatever reason, I guess ever since that altercation, Dean Kaka just really had it out for him and would not stop bothering that kid. But that's for another time. So at that point, I was just like, I could have sworn I thought they said don't go back and forth with the kids. I mean, she's a dean, so I don't know if she's exempt from that. But no other deans that I know go back and forth with the kids. Like, typically they just say, give me this, give me that, do this, do that, and the kids just listen. I don't know if it got that bad because he wasn't listening, but I will say you came with that energy, talk about something, what you doing, da 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 da, da 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 da. Yeah. Kids not about to answer good to that, especially kids from an urban area. Like, is what a teacher would have talked to me like that back in the day, I probably would have caught a charge because who are you even talking to? Kids, adolescents, teenagers have developing minds. They do not understand the consequences of their actions, especially if we're talking about kids who have lived through things that we may never be able to understand. Not only just adversity, but also violence, abandonment, neglect, and like I said before, undiagnosed mental issues. So when you sit in there, talk about, well, you got it messed up. Like, how you think a kid finna respond? So she takes Edward out the class. All the kids in the class did the worksheet. Every single one of them. I sat there, I said, well, y'all, I know y'all don't want to do this worksheet. I don't want to do these slides. Respectfully, please just do the worksheet, hand it in. Every single kid did the worksheet and gave it to me. I guarantee you Edward would have did the worksheet.
Now, the thing is with Edward, I ain't gonna hold you. Edward was actually one of my favorites. And what's funny is he literally, when he first met me, like literally once I introduced myself to the class, I was like, yeah, I'm the dance teacher, whatever. They was like, oh my God, that's so cool. Like, damn, like we want dance, da 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 da. Edward gonna say, you don't deserve to be here. You're actually a good teacher. You should find yourself another job. Just like that. And funny enough, throughout the whole time I was there, we told you to get another job. I told you. I told you don't deserve any. Yo, and it's sad because there was a couple kids that were like that. There was one kid, after a few weeks, he was like, I'm so proud of you. I said, why? He said, because you didn't quit yet. Y'all, it was that serious. It was that serious. And what's really sad about this is these kids really are traumatized by teachers leaving them. That's why it was hard for me to leave. That's why, like, you guys are probably like, how the fuck is this shit? Like, how's there so much more? It's because I should have left earlier. And it really is that much that went on. Like, it really is. And mind you, this is from my perspective. The things that were going on with the other teachers, especially like on the second and third floor, out of this world.
Edward was actually one of the most smartest kids that actually got his work done in the 10th grade. You guys are probably like, Ivana, how did you find that out? Because by the end of that school week, we were sent a proposed schedule while we were sitting in the meeting. And all of a sudden, I went from having freshmen and a senior class to all sophomores. The sophomores that I said was kind of a handful. Now, all of a sudden, I have them. And I'm just like, why didn't anyone run this by me? Like, I mean, it would have been nice to be told. Like, it wasn't something that like was explicitly told to me like, hey, we're no longer giving you freshmen. We're no longer giving you that one senior class. You're going to have all sophomores now. Like, it just, I literally looked at the schedule and I'm like, Okay. And the funny thing is, if I'm not mistaken, okay, I might got this wrong. If I didn't have 4 classes, my schedule was better the first time around. This time I didn't know. Okay, I did have 5 classes before. My schedule was better the first time. This time everything was back to back. Yeah, second, third, fifth, sixth, seventh. Like it was something like that. It was just freaking ridiculous. And I was just sitting there like, so what y'all think this is? I raised my hand in the meeting and I said, so y'all expect me to be dancing all day? And they all kind of just laughed. What the fuck is so funny? Like, and I know a lot of people are probably gonna be like, oh, well, it's standard as a teacher. You're gonna have 5 classes. Some teachers don't have any. I'm sorry that you're okay with being treated like a slave, but my ancestors went through slavery, so I didn't have to. You could miss me with teaching 5 dance classes back to back. This ain't that. And it never will be. Like, the fuck you talking about? Like, that shit kind of irritated me. And Mr. Bill's like, yeah, I mean, that's just how it has to be right now. I wrote very swiftly in that damn schedule because it was like one of those like building documents, like you can make notes. And he was like, if anyone has a problem with their schedule, say it now or forever hold your peace, because the schedules are the schedules and they're not really changing, blah, blah, blah. So I wrote, this don't make no sense for me to be teaching 5 dance classes back to back. And like I wrote my whole grievance in there, because what are you even talking about right now? Like, this shit, like, I will break my back because I also teach Zumba. I also do private classes. I do a lot of shit. So what are you talking about? So I'm just like, yeah, like this shit gotta be changed or I'm walking out of here, because I'm not trying to break my back. Okay. And to add insult to injury, my classroom was bare. Okay. Like, there was no mat, there was no mirror, there was no safety precautions. Like, I had a blank room. Okay, it is not safe for me to be dancing in there continuously, consistently, but it's also not safe for me to be dancing in there 5 times a day. Like, be for real. And of course, most dance teachers don't dance, okay? They teach, they instruct. But these kids cannot dance. They couldn't even do a damn cha-cha slide. Yeah, I have to do everything full out in order to teach these kids. I was thoroughly annoyed that I already went through my first day spew and all of that with these kids, only to have to do everything all over again, because now I had a whole different group of kids. And you guys were like, well, it's just one day. No, my one day was very interactive. I had the kids write the rules, sign the contracts, give out a syllabus to send to their parents and bring back. Like, I had a lot. Okay. I also owe one group of kids or 2 groups of kids candy, because that time when I had 70 kids in the class, I did my second period versus my 4th period, whatever it was. Like, I did 2 classes versus another, and I said winning class gets candy. I couldn't even get the damn kids candy because I didn't even remember what the class was, because everything was so chaotic, so it's just like, it kind of just set me back a little bit, because now the lesson plan's a week behind. Now it's about a week and a day behind. I still don't know who's in my class. Like, y'all, the stress that I felt after the first week of school was absolutely ridiculous. And I wasn't the only person feeling it, because by the end of that training week, Christine quit. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, she was the first fellow to drop, which was shocking, because it's like, how in the, like, I did expect it, but I didn't. I would talk to Christine all the time, and she had a lot of grievances. We all had grievances, but she really was struggling because she just didn't have the tools that she wanted. Additionally, she came in there to teach, special ed classes with kids that really needed extra help. And the school said there was no special ed. Apparently, I found out later that they removed all the SPED classes, which is classes for kids that need extra help. No words. No words.
I don't know if the footage went missing or whatever, but I completely forgot to mention this part possibly. So when the Friday rolled around during orientation week, you would think everything was set, right? So the goal was to get the schedules done by Friday. They gave these kids schedules during one of the orientation sessions. Still wasn't right. Classes were missing. Imaginary classes were there. There were no room numbers, no nothing. So already we knew we were walking into Monday into straight chaos. We have a meeting, and why, basically they're trying to, like, I don't even want to say gaslight us, but they're basically talking about the kids' behavior and how no one should be in the hallways, and how, we're going to be having a fresh new start. And even though we were doing an orientation week, we still got to make sure everything is solid. Y'all, I don't know if people just like lack common sense or they think that kids are really that stupid. You guys made these kids come to school for an entire week with no lockers, no books, no schedules, barely any teachers. And now you think it's going to go well when you try to restart shit over, especially when you just gave them schedules that are barely good. They're just as bad as the first one. Like Monday's going to be problematic as hell. I promise y'all it's the same day. I'm just extremely tired and I just keep forgetting things and I'm realizing it as I'm editing. So also during that meeting, right, we had our time to shine. One thing about these charter schools, they love their toxic positivity. So the world could be burning down, but they're always on some, let's show some shine, let's give some shout outs. Oh my God, it gets on my nerves. So that time comes and Michelle's like, I just want to give a, heartwarming shout out to my slave ship team, us as fellows, we've been getting it done with like no tools. And, we were hazed this week. Like, just trying to be funny. Child, why Miss Letitia gonna say, well, we was hazed too. Like, we was going through it too. Like, shut the fuck up. After that, I was like, yeah, nah, I ain't banging with you because you're doing too much. You obviously have a problem. Like, literally, the fellows and the substitutes are a majority of the staff. Stop fucking playing with me, bruh. We're a majority of the staff with minimum tools. If you guys are getting shit done, it's because y'all chose to be slaves for the past 2, 3, 6, 7, 20 years. We just got here and we're doing the best we can with no tools. Could you please let us get a goddamn shout out? Because a lot of y'all don't even like to act like we exist. And it really pissed me off because like that week was the time where they were giving out these teacher bags and they claimed they put them all in our classrooms. Why absolutely zero fellow got one? I don't get it. Most of the fellows were electives. So it's the first floor. Where the fuck is our teacher bag? Where's our gifts? Where's our stuff? And they try to like send out this email like, oh, we don't know what happened to the teacher bags. Yo, fuck you. Fuck you. Like, cause if y'all have a problem, just say that. And what happened? They came in Monday to give them new schedules again. So at this point, they've given 3 schedules in like a week. Okay. The first day of school, Friday, and then that coming Monday. These kids have gotten 3 schedules and none of them are good schedules. I'm sitting there at my post. Okay. Because remember, I told you I have my post on the stairs. Honestly, I ain't gonna hold you. I said, fuck that. I'm standing in front of my door because they also had that thing where it was like, oh, you have to stand in front of the door to greet the students. Stand in front of my door. And I'm like, yo, where are these kids at? Like, what's going on? Like, and it wasn't just me, all of us on the first floor is looking at each other like, yo, where the kids at? I was like, yo, let me go see what's going on in the annex. Why? I go in there and the whole school is in the annex. At this point, I'm like, why do we have all these kids in the annex still? So I go up to one of the teachers. I said, what's going on? Like, she was probably the only teacher in there with Mr. Bill. And I said, what are we doing? Like, why are you guys still here? Because at this point, it's about to hit 9 o'clock. It's like 8:30ish. 8:45. I'm like, what's going on? Oh, I'm trying to get these kids the schedule. Mind you, she has the whole like cafeteria table and she just has a bunch of schedules on there and they're all mixed up. They're not in any order. And I'm just looking like, well, how do you know who needs a schedule? She's like, oh, well, they're all on the bleachers. So I said, okay, I guess. So then I start looking at the schedule, seeing if I could match a face to it, whatever. Because at this point, I'm at a lot of kids at this point. I'm actually starting to remember their names. So I'm looking at the schedules. And then one of the kids is like, oh, Miss R, I still didn't get a schedule. But they sitting on the opposite side of the gym. And I'm like, wait, I thought you said that all the kids that need a schedule are over here. She said, so I was like, you know what? Listen up. If you don't have a schedule, I need you right here on this other side on the bleachers. Half the fucking gym moved. And I was just like, there is absolutely no way that all these kids don't have a schedule still. And there's no way that you guys were just sitting here having these kids. Y'all, like, I was just like, are y'all that stupid? Like, are y'all like, come on. So at this point, I walk back to my class. I tell all the rest of the teachers, like, yeah, they still getting shit together. Like, nobody got a schedule. Like, I don't know how this finna work out. But I mean, eventually, everybody was in a class. I didn't have double classes. I did hear a lot of other teachers who are still having major issues in terms of no tables, no chairs, over 60 kids in a class. Luckily for me, that wasn't the case. And for most of the electives, it was fine. However, when it came to Spanish 1, Spanish 2, whatever, that was still an issue. Oh, it was a hot ass mess.
Everybody's getting into the groove of things a little bit. And I start getting a little sick. Like, I'm not dying, but I'm getting a little sick. I got a little tickle in my throat. I got a little cough or whatever. And all of us, honestly, everybody's getting a little sniffle, okay? Especially with us as fellows. But, everybody's just pushing through. And honestly, I loved my classes. Like, I loved these sophomores. They were just so sweet, even though they were so low key, high key bad. Okay. Like when I'm telling y'all, my kids got written up all day, every day. We got an email every single day about write ups and all of that. And it's crazy because every single time you would see the write up list, it was like 10th grade, 10th grade, 10th grade, 10th grade, 10th grade. It was like, Jesus. Like, and it's sad because it would always be after my class. It would be like, as soon as they leave my class, they go to this class and they're always getting in trouble. To the point where that specific teacher, I told him like, hey, if you ever have a problem with my kids or any of these sophomores or whatever, just please send them to my class so you don't have any problems and you can continue to teach. Now, you guys are probably like, well, why don't they just call a dean? There's a lot of times that we call the dean and the dean didn't show up. Where you call a dean, the dean picks up the kid and the kid comes right back. There's a lot of times where you call a dean and this is one of the dean's favorites. So there's no discipline. So it's just like, just send the kid to my fucking class. Like, I don't have time to be sitting here trying to go through the protocols that you guys put in place that are genuinely not working. And yes, we saw that they were not working week 1. So it's absolutely sad that had to happen, but I felt like that was the only way.
So to be clear, a lot of these teachers were sending these kids to my class regardless, okay? Like, it was something that I didn't even know was possible. Like, they would write these passes for these kids to go to other classes, especially my class. My class became a safe haven for a lot of these students, and it became the chill spot. It became the, skip spot. And unfortunately, since we had no rosters, we had no power school, and they were continuously changing schedules, we genuinely did not know what kids belonged in what class. Like, it was so bad. I can't tell you to get out, and I don't even know where you're supposed to go. I don't know where you're supposed to be. So a lot of times I would have a lot of kids that weren't supposed to be in there. When it came to the teachers that genuinely couldn't handle certain kids, they would send them down with their work, or they would have already been done with their work. However, they were disturbing the class because they were done. So it was just a lot of behavior issues. A lot of, I guess, classroom management problems. But personally, I didn't have that problem.
Obviously, we still do not have rosters. We still do not have power school. We are doing paper attendance. Real interesting, specifically because there's so much going on that really doesn't have to be going on. Slowly but surely, you see operations dwindling, like they're calling out a lot. And it's not just operations, it's teachers. So this was the week that I actually met the music teacher. And I was like, oh my God, thank goodness we have another elective. Now you would think if it's called an elective, the kids get to choose the elective, but no. The juniors got music, the sophomores got dance, the freshmen got computer science, and then I believe the seniors had something called college and career readiness, which is what Michelle was teaching. So yeah, they were just automatically placed into these electives because of their cohorts, depending on your cohort and when they had it was when you had it. Personally, I just think that's so ineffective and problematic and it's not right to these kids. But hey, what do I know? So I meet the music teacher and I was like, oh my God, what brings you here? She's no, I ain't gonna hold you. I told her, oh girl, you better run. She gonna say, oh, well, it can't be worse than where I was before. Oh, I can't wait for part 3 of this story. Now, I will say during training, I did ask, hey, how are the kids? What is the kids' behavior like? Bill gonna say mixed. That was not an accurate depiction. I will say that I had a great experience with the kids, especially behavior-wise. I can write maybe on I could count maybe on 1 or 2 hands how many write-ups that I wrote specifically before I even left. Literally, I spent a month not writing not one write-up. My first write-up, I believe, might have been end of September into October. And then I will say that last day I was writing niggas up because they was just pissing me off. And honestly, I'm not going to hold you. The fact that all these teachers keep quitting, I feel like it's a trauma response for them. There was one girl, I never really had too big of an issue with her. But that last day, she literally irked my nerve. They would play fight, and mind you, it's the last period. It's literally 7th period. And I keep telling them to stop, and she gonna say, nobody cared that you yelling, you leaving anyway. Dean, you better come get her. She's yelling like a crackhead. Cause who are you talking to? Like, don't do it. Don't do it. They don't do it. Like, that's the thing. Like, one of my ways to deal with these kids was, I never wrote a write-up before. Like, I don't write kids up. So don't be my first one. Or don't be my third one. Cause like, by the time I left there, I might have written 5. I'm not even kidding you. Like, one was for like a kid that was bullying another kid. The other one was a kid that, oh yeah, we gonna get to that. But basically, the girl came to my class, not even my freaking student, and like kicked my door because I wouldn't let her in. And then the other 3, one was that girl. I don't even remember what the other 2 were, to be quite honest with you. So like, I don't do write-ups. Like, I feel like they're really ineffective unless the kid really did something. And if you have a kid that's consistently getting written up anyway, it doesn't really do anything. All in all, for me, the kids were great. I absolutely loved them. However, unfortunately, a lot of these kids are not the cleanest, and they love touching. I will say I got a lot of hugs from these kids all day, every day. Yes, within the first week. I will say these kids, they liked me. They didn't hate me. You feel me? I ended up getting COVID. Yeah, so I was out. I tested for COVID maybe Sunday or Monday. I ended up telling the slave ship, and the slave ship ended up telling me that I had a mandatory 5-day quarantine. Meanwhile, the plantation didn't really care. They said, oh, it doesn't matter. You could come to work so I can spread my COVID to 500 kids. What are you talking about? Like, when I'm telling you that pissed me off, it was just like, why? And I understand a lot of people think COVID is not a big deal now, but it is. It still is. It's extremely dangerous. You can still die from it. And I get sick all the time. I get strep throat, tonsillitis, all of that. I never felt as bad as when I had that shit. Like, I could not breathe. I had to call out a Zumba for like 3 straight weeks because it was like I couldn't do much. It was really, really bad. So for you to say I could still come to work is absolutely crazy. Barely anyone checked on me except for my fellowship fam, okay? But it's just sad because it's like, do people really not care about legitimate sicknesses anymore? Like, you really even shouldn't be going to school if you have a common cold, to be quite honest, let alone COVID. So I end up being out for the week, and obviously chaos still continues. And from what I understand, according to the substitutes that covered my class was horrible. Like, to the point where I had substitutes coming up to me like, please never be absent again. Never be absent again because your kids are horrible. And this happened every single time that I was sick, but I kid you not, they were never bad in my class. Quietly doing work, taking notes, whatever. If I gave them the free period, they would be very quiet, sit down. You could hear a pin drop in my class. However, for that week that I did have COVID, they had a specific teacher come in for the week. We're going to call this girl Miss Who the fuck do you think you are? And I hope she sees this because I know she still works with the network or whatever, or for the slave ship. This girl comes. The kids, it was hit or miss. I had 3 of the 5 classes that actually really, really liked her. They actually learned that Beyonce dance. You know that song? Run to the left, to the left, to the left. Get me body. There you go. Child. They was doing the get me body dance. She taught them that. But I had 2 classes in particular that didn't really like her. And they said they didn't like her because she said she was going to take my job. The girl came sitting her ass in my chair, talking shit, saying, oh, I don't know what happened to y'all teacher. I just might be the next dance teacher here. I'm about to take her job. When the first class told me this, I was like, y'all just starting rumors. Like, it was like, nah, like, she dead said that. Then the second class said it, and I said, okay. I hit up the slave ship like, yo, don't be having this girl sit in my desk talk about how she gonna take my job. I'm not the one. Like, I'm not the one. And I knew the kids weren't lying because they added very specific details. Like, oh yeah, like she said she was going to talk to Mr. Bill, and her and Mr. Bill were going to cut a deal, and she was either going to take your job or maybe she was going to teach beside you. I said, did I say I needed a partner? I mean, at this point, like, yeah, it'd be nice to have a mentor, but I don't need to be mentoring someone else. And I don't need nobody in my way teaching people YouTube Beyonce dances. Like, that's not what we doing here. And then popping at the mouth, sitting at my desk. Like, what you... Shit talking is a very big pet peeve of me. Like, in terms of people that like don't really know me in a professional setting that try to say stuff like, y'all, I probably look crazy doing this, but I'm trying to like calm myself down by doing this. Trust me, it helps. But like, it grinded my gears so much to come back after literally being on my COVID deathbed and hearing that this teacher was talking shit about how she's gonna take my job. Like, are you stupid? Like, don't even. But let's back it up a little bit. That Friday of the week that I had COVID, I got a phone call from Michelle. Maybe middle of the day, maybe like 3 o'clock. And I'm like, why is she calling me? Like, school's not over till 4. Child, she ended up texting me talking about she quit.
I don't know how I forgot this, but Lenny also quit. Yes, Spanish teacher, or Larry. Why do I feel like I keep messing up the name? Larry, Lenny, Spanish teacher quit. Literally, Michelle and him quit while I was out. I was so annoyed because I'm like, bro, I didn't even get to say goodbye. All right, so to be clear, we had 2 people quit during training. We had Farah, Christine, Lenny, Michelle. That's already 6.
And it's only been maybe 2-3 weeks now. If you guys want to know why Michelle quit, please check into the third part of this story because this is already getting way too long. Just know it had a lot to do with Dean Kaka and a lot of the misorganization and disrespect that she had to endure just in that week alone that I wasn't there. With that being said, make sure you guys like, share, subscribe. Let me know your experiences in charter, public, private, or any type of school. I would love to hear them down below. Most importantly, follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all of that. I would love to see you over there. And please join my Patreon for more support. With that being said, make sure you guys like, share, subscribe, do all that. And I'm going to see y'all in the next one.